don't normally do this, even though I'm frequently receiving DMs from people asking me to review certain things that are going on in mainstream media. And the reason why I don't do this is because it's just me here. I don't have a team of people to research the different current affairs so that we can build a more rounded picture before I give my thoughts on it. Because as we know, each different media outlet has a different agenda and will report on something differently. So I stay away from current affairs and always have done. I have once given my thoughts on something that happened. That was the Dalai Lama situation, where I reacted to that on my Instagram in some anger and regretted it because there was a big conversation to be had around what happened there. If you don't know about it, I gave my review some months later where I managed to collect both sides of the debate. And if you just search on my YouTube channel, Dalai Lama, then you're going to find that video. So with this, I saw this particular news story start popping up quite a few times because I'm in these circles and I see people reposting them and posting them, and I thought to myself, wow, that's quite a crazy thing to be happening right now, and demonstrates a lot, shows a lot about how society looks at this crime. And I was kind of tempted to give my thoughts. Quite a few people were DMing me with the reports, and I decided not to because I'm trying to run a load of things. Yeah, I've got these live events going on, social media content, something to say platform, which, by the way, the t-shirt that I'm wearing at the moment, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is the clothing that we sell on somethingtosayofficial.com. Go get that if you would like to support us in some way. So I just kept quiet about this and just watched from the periphery. And then yesterday, I came across this video on GB News of a woman talking about the situation. Now, I must obviously give you some context for this, and that is that what's happened has been that in the Olympics, there is a Dutch athlete, I believe a volleyball player. I don't have all the information. I haven't read articles. I've just seen headlines. And what's happened is he is a convicted sex offender. When he was 19 years old, he had sex with, and we're gonna check this terminology. Don't worry. I know lots of people are angry at the use of the word sex in this situation. So when he was 19, he had sex with, again, we're going to address that terminology, with a 12-year-old. Pleaded guilty, was convicted, served his sentence, and now he's 26 years old. And the uproar is because the Dutch Olympic Committee has allowed him to participate in this Olympics. And people are angry about it because that is signalling that this crime is thought of as something that we can just not hold in a high regard of severity. So that's the situation. Lots of people are discussing. There is a debate to be had. With everything, there is a debate to be had. But with this, there is also, even though you wouldn't have thought there would be a debate, what would you think? If you have sex with a 12-year-old, then you're out. Right? You're out. You're not representing countries if you do that. But of course, straight away, there's going to be some people who are like, well, if you serve your punishment, then you need to be allowed to carry on with your life, which we're going to get into all of that now. But the woman on GB News said some things which I just literally couldn't, I just thought she had got so much wrong that I needed to talk about it. And that's why I'm doing this. So let's start the video.
So when you juxtapose that with the fact that you've got this Dutch guy who is has an actual conviction for child rape. I'm not going to use the term that you use because I think that's a bit strong, child rapist. But
what is a child rape?
But when you put them together, it seems so out of whack.
Child rape. She was
Okay. First of all, she doesn't want to use the word child rape, right? So where are we going to draw? Where is the terminology here? Now, I am not formally educated in this. Okay, so let's just start the video again and just check what she was saying, because this video, by the way, is 2.5 minutes long, and I need to stop it in quite a few places. So
So when you juxtapose that with the fact that you've got this Dutch guy who is has an actual conviction for child rape. I'm not going to use the term that you use because I think that's a bit strong, child rapist. But
what is a child rapist?
But when you put them together, it seems so out of whack.
Okay, so what we're saying here is, and I'm kind of tempted to let the whole thing play out because it's 2.5 minutes long. Maybe I should let the whole video play, because otherwise I'm going to be stopping it every 10-15 seconds because she says so many crazy things, and then I'll let you have your thoughts on it as it's playing, and then maybe that's a better way to do that. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so I'm just going to play complete change of plan. Sorry about that. Just a complete change of plan. Let's just play the whole thing.
He was 12.
I know, but then having listened to Bev's monologue this morning, I sort of agree with her.
Yeah, but
that people need.
He was 12. She was 19.
I know.
She's a child. She's a child.
He was a few years older than her. He's now grown up. Like, he would be able to carry on with his job in any other walk of life, and it's really hard when you make a mistake and you are never allowed.
Well, he wouldn't be allowed to work.
To be forgiven.
He's not allowed to stay in the Olympic Village.
No, that's not true. It's not that he's not allowed to stay there. They've decided not to put him in there.
But he didn't appear at the press conference, which is a condition. Which is a condition of appearing at the Olympics, is you have to go to the press conference.
One thing's for sure, this must be a deeply uncomfortable experience for him. He's away from the other athletes. He's got
his wife
spotlight.
And his 2-year-old with him.
I know. I think that was what
he's turned his life around.
He has turned his life around. The fact that he's married and has a child now, and I'm not saying that child molesters don't do that, but it just feels as though he's still a young man. He's 29 years old. He did something appalling at the age of 19.
And the team admit that. The team are not making apologies.
And also 12-year-old, I know it's really hard to because I know 12-year-olds who are sassy and act like they're 16-year-old girls.
She told him
he did know her age.
She told him he was 16 when he flew over to see her.
I know. I'm 50-50 on this. I assumed that he'd done it as a grown adult, as a grown man, and he'd groomed her.
Teenager.
I don't think that's quite the case.
He was 19, nearly 20.
Yeah,
also,
it was wrong.
When she went to get the morning after pill the next day, they said straight to her, how old are you? They could see instantly she was a child.
Yeah, but 10 years ago they did say that to you when you went to get the morning after pill. I don't know, if I was judged for everything I did between the age of 12 and 19, I'd probably be in prison or something.
Serious rape is different.
I know, of course it is. Was it non-consent? Well, it's irrelevant.
It's the double standards, because he was convicted. He was convicted in a British court.
Yeah.
It's a deeply unpleasant crime for which he was convicted, for which he has served a sentence, but it's whether it's appropriate to serve at the Olympics at a time when the whole outrage was about a, admittedly rather naff, part of the opening ceremony.
They spent 4 days together in this country when she was 12 and he was 19.
Which is a bit different to the way it was portrayed to me, was that he groomed her, flew over to Milton Keynes and raped her, whereas actually it sounds more like an very inappropriate holiday romance thing, which he should not have done.
No.
Anyway.
Wow. I mean, I've watched that 5 or 6 times now, and I am so shocked at the way she's talking about it, that I actually just can't believe it. She doesn't think it's that serious. And we've got so much to talk about. And what we should do is, first of all, classify this terminology, right? So do we say that this 19-year-old young man had sex with this 12-year-old child? Now, the reason why people are so up in arms about calling it sex is because what we're saying in this country, with the age of consent being 16, is that you cannot consent to having sex with an adult when you are under 16. So you can't consent to that. And if you are not consenting to sex and somebody has sex with you, then that is rape. And that's where people are so angry that anyone's even calling it sex. It should be this 19-year-old child rapist raped this 12-year-old girl. Now, shall I tell you something that I think that not many people would be able to do with confidence, including myself, is give a definition for rape. Could you give a definition for rape, an actual technical definition? I have an idea of what the definition is, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly search it, put it up on the internet, and then we can at least get that bit straight. Okay, I found something. This is from the Met Police website, so it's an official definition, and it's actually very good for us right now because it says it's differentiating the different terms of rape and sexual assault. So, just in case you didn't know, this is good information. Here's what it reads. All rape and sexual assault is serious. The terms rape and sexual assault are used to simply differentiate between the two types of offence. So, what's the difference? The legal definition of rape is when a person intentionally penetrates another's vagina, anus, or mouth with a penis without the other person's consent. Assault by penetration is when a person penetrates another person's vagina, anus with any part of their body other than a penis, or by using an object without the person's consent. So what we're saying here is technically it is rape because the 12-year-old girl that he penetrated couldn't give consent because she was a child. Now, back to the video, right? So first of all, this woman doesn't want to call it a child rapist. It seems harsh to her, is what she alluded to at the start of the video. And I have a feeling that the reason why she's saying she feels like that label is not suitable for this particular gentleman is because, probably shouldn't use the word gentleman, isn't it? But this man is because I think she's thinking that rape is when someone is attacked, pinned down, they're kicking and screaming, "Get off me!" and you force your penis inside of them. When what we say in today's society, or what we need to explain more to general public, is that rape isn't always doesn't have to be forceful, doesn't have to be painful, doesn't have to be an attack. It can be in this situation, because she's also saying in this video, isn't she, that it seemed kind of consensual to me. We're getting all of this wrong. This is why I was so drawn towards making this, even though, as I mentioned at the start of this, I don't really like, I'm not really at a stage where I can just comment on current affairs. When I've got a team of people and we can put stories together and see all angles of what the different news outlets are reporting, then I can do that. But that doesn't matter for this. This is more about, this is more about a woman's opinion, as opposed to actually what's going on with this man who's competing in the Olympics, because she is thinking that because that 12-year-old was forthcoming in some sense, and she said, didn't she, like, I know 12-year-olds that act like they're 16. So she's kind of saying, what she's saying is that 12-year-old wanted it, and she was happy with the relationship that they were having, whatever level of relationship that was. And so the man shouldn't get all the blame. The perpetrator, the sex offender, shouldn't get all the blame, because in some way she was flirting and asking for it as well. But again, we're missing the point here. Even if that's true, let's say that's true, right? Let's say that this 12-year-old girl was being exchanging messages with this 19-year-old young man, and she was loving it. She was loving the attention. It was flirtatious. It was exciting. He was coming over from Berlin. They were going to meet, and they arranged to have sex. It was all agreed in text message. It doesn't matter, right? That doesn't matter. What we're saying here in England is that if you're under 16, then you cannot consent to having sex with an adult. And that's the law. So what we're saying to mostly men is that if you dare to have sex with a minor, you are going to be labelled as a sex offender. You are going to see some kind of punishment, even though it will be a very small, insignificant punishment. But you are not allowed to touch minors, underage people, underage children. You're not allowed to go near them. You're not allowed to approach them. You are coercing them. You are manipulating them. You are grooming them if you are going to go and try your chances with someone that's under 16. That's what we're saying the rules are. It doesn't matter how forthcoming that child or young teenager is. There's so much more in this video. Let's start it again, right? Because I just want to make sure we cover everything, because this is completely wrong by this woman. I can't see how anyone would say otherwise.
So when you juxtapose that with the fact that you've got this Dutch guy who is has an actual conviction for child rape. I'm not going to use the term that you use because I think that's a bit strong, child rapist. But
what is a child rape?
But when you put them together, it seems so out of whack.
Child rape? She was 12.
I know, but then having listened to Bev's monologue this morning, I sort of agree with her.
Yeah, but
that people need.
He was 12. She was 19.
I know.
She's a child.
He was a few years older than her. He's now grown up. Like, he would be able to carry on with his job in any other walk of life, and it's really hard when you make a mistake and you are never allowed.
Well, he wouldn't be allowed to.
Would he be allowed to return to any other line of work? I don't think you can. Any line of work that requires a DBS check, you're not going to be able to go to, and to represent a country when you've got that kind of conviction. Because if you're, I think something when we now look at the actual story, right, and again, I just want to keep saying it, I don't know the latest. Okay, I don't know the latest. I don't really know the finer details of what's happened and how this whole thing has evolved. But as a society, if we're going to say, if you rape, so let's use that terminology now, if you rape a 12-year-old, once you've served your prison sentence, you are just going to be able to have all of the rights that you used to have. Now, there is a discussion to be had around that. And if you have caught some of my podcasts where I talk about offenders, I do try to have that discussion, because we do know that reintegrating people into society is one of the ways we stand the least chance that they will reoffend. Okay, so we know that from mostly from other crimes. Okay, so, but as a society, are we not going to make a stand for this and let people know that if you go down that road, we're not standing for it, and your rights will be taken away once you've served your prison sentence? And she's talking about, I mean, the bit where she's like, what are we supposed to do? Label him forever? Well, yeah, because the girl, will now suffer the consequences that she has developed in result of being manipulated and groomed when she was a child. She is going to suffer some kind of effect. Her life is going to take a slightly different direction. Now, I have learned of some terminology recently, and what was the term called? Let me just find it. 1 second. Okay, so the term is sociogenic harm. Now, this is actually really interesting. Somebody has brought this to my attention, that there is this thing that we do as human beings, and that's when you go through some kind of experience is the wrong word. So you go through some kind of situation. If society around you tell you it's traumatic, even though it's not really causing you any trauma, you will act out that narrative. And what we're saying here with that is that even if she I've kind of lost where I was going with that. So I'm so annoyed about that, because I had a good point to make. So even if she was okay with what happened, the chances of her experiencing it as a traumatic event when she reflects back on it as an adult, knowing that she got taken advantage of by a 19-year-old young man that should have left her alone, will be a thing, right? So just because he served his prison sentence, the effects on her are going to be forever lasting, right? And so I don't think her point on that is valid whatsoever. Let's continue with the video.
To be forgiven.
He's not allowed to stay in the Olympic Village.
No, that's not true. It's not that he's not allowed to stay there. They've decided not to put him in there.
But he didn't appear at the press conference, which is a condition. Which is a condition of appearing at the Olympics, is you have to go to the press conference.
One thing's for sure, this must be a deeply uncomfortable experience for him.
Oh my God, like that is... But does she even know what she's saying? Poor him. Poor him. A deeply uncomfortable experience for him. He committed the crime. Right? What are we supposed to do? Not call him out on it. Now, I just wonder, like when I was watching this yesterday, I was wondering, I wonder if this woman has daughters, right? I wonder if this woman has daughters. Because if this woman has daughters and a 19-year-old lad where they live got hold of her 12-year-old daughter, I wonder if she'd be saying the same thing. I really wonder if she'd be saying the same thing. I don't think anyone in their right mind would want to know, even if their daughter instigated it, even if their daughter was the one doing all the flirting, even if their daughter was the one doing all the texting. I don't think anyone in their right mind would be like, it's okay that that 19-year-old lad in the neighbourhood has just had sex with my 12-year-old daughter. So I wonder if she's got kids, and whether then if she was whatever the situation, if she's not a mother, if she was a mother, whether she'd be saying something very, very different.
Away from the other athletes, he's got his wife spotlight.
And his 2-year-old with him.
I know. I think that was what
he's turned his life around.
He has turned his life around. The fact that he's married and has a child now, and I'm not saying that child molesters don't do that, but it just feels as though he's still a young man. He's 29 years old. He did something appalling at the age of 19.
And the team admit that. The team are not making apologies.
And also 12-year-old. I know it's really hard to because I know 12-year-olds who are sassy and act like they're 16-year-old girls.
Told him
he did.
I just can't believe it. You know the term victim blaming. Often, people who are not in this circle won't truly understand the nature of victim blaming, and that is a great example of it. She is a child. I'm trying to think of you know how my brain's working, right? I'm always searching for analogies or comparisons. And let's say, there's a group of 12-year-olds and they're hanging out at the shops, right? And they're looking to get alcohol, and they manage to find somebody that will buy it for them. And they get a load of alcohol, one of them drinks too much and ends up in hospital. Then are we going to say that's the kid's fault? Are we going to say that's the 12-year-old group's fault? That one of them has ended up in hospital because they got drink or they got hold of drink from somebody who was buying it for. No, all the blame is on the adult for buying that 12-year-old group alcohol. Am I right in that? Thinking like that? Is that an analogy where if I put that to this woman, she'd be like, that's ridiculous. It's the fault of the adult at the shops who bought that alcohol for those 12-year-olds. They're clearly 12-year-olds. And that's who we should put blame on. We shouldn't be blaming the kids for being kids and trying to get alcohol. Yes, okay, we can have a conversation about better education for those 12-year-olds, but I wonder if she'd say something different to that.
No, he did know her age.
She told him he was 16 when he flew over to see her.
I know. I'm 50-50 on this. I assumed that he'd done it as a grown adult, as a grown man, and he'd groomed her.
Teenager.
I don't think that's quite the case.
He was 19, nearly 20.
Yeah,
also,
it was wrong.
When she went to get the morning after pill the next day, they said straight to her, how old are you? They could see instantly she was a child.
Yeah, but 10 years ago, they did say that to you when you went to get the morning after pill. I don't know. If I was judged for everything I did between the age of 12 and 19, I'd probably be in prison or something.
Serious rape is different.
I know, of course it is. Was it non-consensual?
She wanted to say it. Was it rape? That's what she wanted to say. And she said, was it non-consensual? Again, we'll just quickly make the point. It doesn't matter whether it was consensual, but it's a child. They can't consent. So it's actually, her point is completely irrelevant. Her point is actually technically incorrect because a child can't consent to rape. So it is non-consensual, not in the way that she's thinking, because she, of course, doesn't understand the situation. So why they brought her onto GB News, who knows? I don't really even know who she is. I quickly checked out her X profile. She got 14,000 followers, but I don't know why GB News have got her on this. She obviously doesn't understand the law. So she's questioning whether it was non-consensual, but the child can't consent. The other thing that she mentioned again, didn't she, about was she groomed? Well, how else? What else happened? When you're thinking about grooming grooming is, I'm going to bring up the definition for grooming. Sorry, we just got to get these things right, because I have it in my talk, right? And when I deliver my talk, I give a definition of grooming that I found that I think is brilliant. So here it is, right? Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, or abuse them. And that's exactly what this was, right? We got to get away from this misconception that the grooming, the molestation, the sexual assault, the sexual abuse, the rape of children and young teenagers, minors, is some kind of like horror film every time. Like in the situations as they're occurring, this is a good example. They're not always horrors at that time for the people involved, right? For that young girl, again, maybe she thought it was exciting, maybe she thought this was cool, maybe. We just got rules. We've just got rules. Okay, let's go again.
Double standards, because he was convicted in a British court. It's a deeply unpleasant crime for which he was convicted, for which he has served a sentence, but it's whether it's appropriate to serve at the Olympics at a time when the whole outrage was about admittedly rather naff, part of the opening ceremony.
They spent 4 days together in this country when she was 12 and he was 19.
Which is a bit different to the way it was portrayed to me, was that he groomed her, flew over to Milton Keynes and raped her, whereas actually it sounds more like an very inappropriate holiday romance thing, which he should not have done.
No.
Anyway.
Okay, look. I think the reason why I've done this is because it is another great example of how society, certain circles in society that are not uncommon, are viewing this crime against children. And, if you're following my pages on social media, if you're following this podcast, you'll know that we are now exposing more and more sections of society that think like this, that they think that it's kind of okay to get with a child in a sexual way. And I'm pleased that I'm coming across this, because it's really helping us understand the reality of what we've got on our hands, this challenge that we've got to try to set things straight and try to let, in particular, young men know that we're not happy about you going after underage girls. And I know it happens to boys, and I know sometimes abusers are women as well. But, just in general terms, like, we need to send a message out saying to people who are considering doing this or feel tempted in their head to do this, that we're not standing for it. And this is a good example of why, like, people just don't care. People just don't care. So I hope, I can only imagine that this is blowing your mind. Like, you cannot even believe this, but it's the thought process of a lot of people, and I hope that we got something out of this. I hope we got some understanding out of this, at least to like set the expectations, or set the boundaries, or set the terminology, or set the definitions, and just understand that we have a job on our hands here, right? This mission of getting this subject onto everybody's table and getting people to take it with the right level of seriousness that it deserves, because what we're all after is children and young teenagers to be able to have a safe childhood without adults trying to use them for their perverse sexual arousal. I mean, come on. So we'll just keep going with this, keep exposing these stories, doing this hard work, and I hope everyone's okay, and I'll see you again for another episode soon. Thank you.